Okay, the final step is step 5. Step 5 is to go back and add your elaboration for each piece of evidence. Okay, so when we elaborate, we can do 3 different things depending on what the evidence is calling for. If it's something that needs to be explained, like it needs to be restated in new words because it might not be clear to the reader what it means, then that's one choice. If it's pretty clear and you just want it to connect to the reader, that's when you start speaking directly to the reader using words like you. Or you can connect to yourself and use words like I or myself. Finally, you can compare your evidence to another piece of evidence. So if your evidence links to something you said in a previous paragraph or earlier in that paragraph, you can connect it to build that relationship that the reader might not have seen. Okay, so I'll give you an example of each. Okay, so my reason, remember, graphic novels are becoming more common and popular. Now my evidence is in our library, it's 3% of the collection and 30% of the circulation. So I might need to explain this to the reader. What does it mean for graphic novels to be 3% of their collection, but 30% of their circulation? So now explaining, you can basically restate what's said in the evidence in new words. So let me show you this example. Although this library's collection of graphic novels is only 3%, nearly 1/3 of books checked out by its visitors are graphic novels. Okay, so I'm using this correlative conjunction we've talked about, although. So although this library's collection is 3%, so I'm rephrasing that. Okay, but now I'm saying instead of 30%, I'm putting it in new words. I'm saying 1/3. And instead of saying circulation, which might be kind of confusing for a reader, I'm explaining that circulation means checked out by the visitors. Okay. Now I want to extend it a little more. This proves that even with a limited supply, a growing amount of people are interested in reading graphic novels. Now the reason I added this sentence is I thought it was still necessary to connect it to my reason. I felt like I needed to explain how it connected to graphic novels becoming more popular. Okay, so I laid that out. You might connect to the reader, so that's using words like you, or if you're connecting it to yourself, you're saying I or myself. Okay. So again, same evidence, and now I'm connecting it to the reader. Okay. Have you ever found yourself in Miss Bensamani's classroom only to find novel after novel and nothing left in her graphic novel bin? That's because graphic novels are so widely popular, libraries can't keep up with the demand. Hey, I'm almost 1,000% sure if all my readers are my students, they've had this experience that I'm talking about. Okay, so you want to make sure that you're keeping in mind who your reader is, which is me, and you want to make sure you're connecting it to something that I've experienced, and then you're connecting it to the evidence. So see how initially I'm talking about Miss Bensamani's library, and then I'm saying, oh, this is true for this library as well. I'm going back to my evidence, and then I'm extending it to this is true for a lot of libraries. All right, you might connect your evidence to an earlier piece of evidence, okay? So that's also an option, okay? So now one of my other pieces of evidence were how nearly all libraries and bookstores have a graphic novel section, okay? So I'm bringing that up, and I'm using this sentence starter as stated before. As stated before, nearly all libraries and bookstores have a graphic novel and comic book section. In the case of this library and many others, the popular demand of graphic novels is increasing beyond capacity. Okay, so I'm saying, reader, do you remember when I said that, yeah, I did say that libraries and bookstores nearly all have graphic novel sections. Okay, so I want you to think about that. I want you to remember that. Now I'm going to connect it to this evidence. Okay, this library, like I said, has a graphic novel section, but man, I want to connect this to my reason and show you that even though they have a section, they can't even keep up with the popular demand, okay? So connecting it to the earlier piece of evidence, and then I also want to make sure I'm including a sentence that connects it back to my reason, all right? So that's why your elaboration will tend to be 2 sentences. Okay, one that explains or connects, and then a second one that connects it back to your reason, all right? Okay, so finally make sure you're going back and adding elaboration into your outline. All right, that was the last step. So once you complete your outline, then you can draft out your final. You can do this, I suggest doing it by typing it out in a Word document. You can use Office 365. If you don't have a laptop and you're using your cell phone, did you guys all just hear me take a sip of my coffee? I don't know if you could hear that over the mic. Sorry. If you're using your cell phone or a laptop, or instead of a laptop, you can handwrite it, take a picture, and upload that. But typing it on a Word document and sharing and uploading that will be easier. Now, I'm only having you submit your final draft. You do not have to submit your outline. So, I'm already anticipating getting the question, well, if I'm only submitting my final draft, does that mean I have to do the outline? Yes, you should. Okay, so if you do the outline, if you put the work into the outline, then your final draft is just copying exactly as it's written in your outline. But the important step of doing the outline is making sure you're doing all of the components. You're making sure you have each and every element that I've asked for. Okay? All right, thank you.